Hey, welcome to my studio at home. My name is Richard Cleveland, and today we're going to dive into part 6 of our painting on the Man of Steel from U3D Print Shop. This is a wonderful model. I absolutely love it. It's got a lot of detail. It's coming along just the way I imagined it would. Today what we're going to do is we're going to be adding a lot of color to the skin. And I'm gonna show you our palette here in just a second, but what I want you to realize is what we're using is FW inks. Now these are a heavily pigmented color. I use these quite often when I'm doing models, whether they be this size or this size. I do this on just about every model that I do. The intensity is a little bit different. And what we're going to do is we are going to do a technique where we are just spattering on that color. And we're going to do it slowly. We're going to take our time and we're going to cover the model. Now, at the end of this, it's going to look horrendous. But don't worry, don't get in a tizzy about all the color that's on there. We are going to seal between each coat. We're going to dry it quite quickly. Because these are so thin, I like to add a little bit of alcohol, isopropyl alcohol, which I've got here, and that will help this to dry a little bit faster. So I'm just going to put a couple of drops in each. And then we've got a little bit of alcohol in all of our little palettes here. Just mixing them up now. And what that alcohol does, it helps to make the inks go on a little bit better. And because they're so thin, I'm going to show you that palette right now. I should have added a little bit to the white too. I forgot that. There we go, a couple drops in there. And I'm going to show you this palette right away. There's not much paint here. It's mostly water. Let me just cut the camera here. So here on the table, you can see that we've got, there we go, stop that down a little bit. You can see that we have a rainbow of color here. We've got red, blue, purple, green, yellow, light brown, dark brown, and in the center we have white. And today we're going to use our 1/2-inch soft grip brush. This is SG160. I believe these are ones that you can get from Michael's. They're not a very expensive brush. But we're going to start with the red first, and we're going to work our way around in a clockwise position. This is why I like using this little palette for this, is because I can start at 12 o'clock and I can come back to 12 o'clock and then just hit the center. So what I want to do is I just want to get a little bit of paint on my brush, and I'm going to just fleck it here on the paper, make sure that we're getting some on the paper, and we are. And now I'm going to, let's put this up on Superman so you guys can see it. I'm just going to start putting this color on the Man of Steel. Now, this is not going to be a lot of paint, and you don't want it to be a lot of paint. You want to make sure that you've got the bigger spatters off, and you'll just start to bring in where all those blood vessels are going to be. And it's not going to show up, and it may not show up very well, but once we start doing all of the color on here, you'll see it more. I just like to pat off my brush a little bit because then I don't have so much and I can see it going on. And all we're doing is just dragging our finger back, getting some color in there, up and around on the ears. Now this brush, the way that it is, it does soak up a lot of material. So I should have used a harder brush, but I didn't. And you just want to kind of go randomly all over. And it'll start to show up after a while. And once we're done with the red, we will move to our next color. Get in there behind the ears. And if you get dots that are a little too prominent for you or a little too much, you can always go back with your finger and take them off. Now I've got Superman on the stand here. And I've got a little bit more to do here, not very much. You can see that we're not going to have a lot of paint left in our brush. And what this is going to start to do is it's going to add that color that we've been looking for in our Man of Steel. And there we go. So our first color's on. And you can see down in our palette, we don't have a lot left. It's very, very thin. And so now we're going to move to the blue. And again, because this brush absorbs a lot, I'm going to just pat it off a little bit. And then just kind of see what my spatter pattern is like. And now we'll just kind of do the blue all over. And again, because this brush absorbs a lot, I'm just trying to keep it from absorbing too much. And we can start to see some of that color that's starting to show up in the skin. And again, I'm just patting this off on my paper towel. Get around the back of the neck here. And again, you're just going to be random with this because you don't want it to be, I should bring you back up and show you what we're doing. You don't want to be too heavy with this. You just want to be random. And the further you are away, the easier it is. Now I've done this many times, so I'm not really going back and sealing a lot of this. I am going to just maybe dab off with my finger. Some of those areas. And again, you can see that there's not much color left once we start to continue on here. Now I think that I've got enough. It looks pretty good to me. And this is what's going to help to give you that depth in the skin. Might be a little bit more we could do there on the ear. And now our third color, and you can tell I'm not really taking too much care with my brush here. I'm just going around and I'm just randomly doing this. I'm not changing a lot. Or I'm not cleaning my brush a lot, but I am getting rid of the majority of that paint. We got a little spot underneath his chin there that I want to tackle, so I'm just going to take some clean water. And we're just going to soften that up underneath the chin. There we go. And what this is going to do is, although right now it's going to look dirty, it will, if you take your time, once we put some more color on top, and we are going to do that, it will start to look more and more like real flesh. And that's what we're after here. We're after it looking more and more like real flesh. And I'm pulling back just to kind of randomly get around and get underneath. I'm not spending too much time in one area. I'm just kind of looking as I go along and just kind of seeing where it needs a little bit more, a little bit less. So now we've done purple, let's move on to green. And you are going to see that your hands start to absorb some of this color too after a while. And you know, you don't have to be too meticulous with this. You just want to make sure that when you are doing it, that your blobs aren't too big. And you can see there's a lot of stuff coming off in my fingers here. And we're on to that green right now. We didn't use a lot of the purple, but and now this is coming off in a very, very fine sort of mist because of the type of brush that I'm using here. And you can probably see some of it now. If I give you guys a real close-up there, you can kind of see some of it now. You'll definitely be able to see it more as we progress through it. And why I'm using all these colors is because they're all colors that appear in our skin, believe it or not. And you know, he is from Krypton, so again, by texturing the skin, we're moving on to the yellow now. This is a fun part of this. I really like this. Now, the yellow we're not going to do so much. We're just going to kind of generally put it in spots. And again, we're not looking for a full-blown make sure you get in under that chin as well. And again, we're going all the way around the object. Our model here, we're going all the way around. Now, it doesn't matter if we're getting this color into the hair, because at the end of the day, all of this color is going to get covered up anyway. If we've got areas that are just a little too prominent, if you flecked it on and you see that it's just a little too prominent, you can always go back and just use your finger and dab it off. All right, so there's the yellow. Now we're on to our light brown. We're just going to mix that up a little bit more. And we'll pull some of that light brown out of there. And we'll put that light brown on. And we're just going around the model. And we're going to keep going around the model. And I'm using two different hands here. And you see that as you do this, your fingers start to get covered in paint as well. And this is starting to look really, really good, guys. I'm really liking this. Oh, we're on the yellow there. Wrong yellow. We want that yellow. We want the light brown. Now, the light brown I'm using is more of a raw sienna. And the reason that we go all random is so that it doesn't leave, you know, lines where we don't want it to leave lines. And that's streaks of paint that we don't want on our figure. I'm just kind of working my way around them here for you guys so you can see a little bit more of what we're doing. And now we are on to our second last color, and that is the dark brown. And that is a burnt umber we're using. And this is what's going to give the skin sort of that freckled look. Because we're using such a strong color, we're going to see little flecks of brown in there, which is fine. Perfectly fine. I keep blotting off my So this is the color that's going to allow us to have some freckles in the skin. And Superman's not perfect. Some of these I'm going to leave a little darker just because I want to have, you know, those kind of mole-ish look in his skin. I don't want him to be, you know, completely freckled, but there, I'm pretty happy with that. And now we will go to the white, but here I will clean my brush a little bit just to get out some of the excess color that's in there. And now we're going to go to white. And white is such a very clear kind of color that, again, we're just going to randomly put white in there, and if it's really big, we're just going to dab it off. And we're really far away from our model here. We're spending a lot of time just getting in those subtle whites in the skin. Again, this is going to dry a lot clearer than we normally would. Try and take a dry finger and do this if you can. Get a little bit around the eyes there. There we go. So where do we go from here, you're going to ask me? Well, where we go from here now is we're going to seal Superman, because we are now done with our inks. We no longer need them. We're going to push that over to the side. I'm just going to take a piece of kitchen roll here and clean my hands. And I'm going to see if I can get you guys in nice and close, if you guys can see that. There you go. So you can see we've got some modeling going on there. You can see the different colors in the forehead. It looks like, you know, it kind of looks dirty in a way, but not really. But you can see now we've got some more modeling in the skin. We've got some more color there. We are going to do a very, very, very light skin wash over top of this. But before we do that, we are going to go ahead and, there we go. Let's bring that down a little bit more so you guys can see what's going on. There we go. So you can see some of what we did with the flecking. It's got a lot of color in there now. It looks great. I'm really happy with it, but I really need now to seal it. So that's what we're going to do first, is we're going to seal it. We're just going to take a little bit of our spray here, our matte spray, which is the low odor stuff. There we go. Low odor clear matte spray from Krylon. And we're just going to shake it up and just give it a quick little spritz here. And once that is done, there we go. I'm really happy now. He looks a little glossy at the moment. He looks a little bit glossy at the moment, but we'll take care of that. We're going to grab the hairdryer here, and we're just going to dry this up. That's all we're going to do. Let's put it on high. I'm just going to dry this up. All right, so we'll just give that a little touch, see if it's tacky. Nope, it's good. It's exactly what we're looking for. So now what are we going to do, guys? Well, we are going to give you guys a little bit better view of what we're doing here. And we're going to go ahead and I think I darkened too much there. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now we are going to go in and we're going to add some color. So we're going to go back to our regular palette. We're just going to flip it around here. We'll get rid of all of these wet ones that are kicking around because we don't need them. So we're just going to deposit that down here for now. We'll get ourselves a clean kitchen roll. And remember what we did a couple of episodes back where we took a really, really thin wash and we used our base skin tone that we mixed up. We're going to add a little bit of light flesh. And I think we're going to add some sunny skin tone to that as well. But we're going to make this really, really thin. And we're going to just go over this slowly but surely with our color. I'm going to make it thin and we're going to make it look amazing. So we're going to add a little bit of light flesh. Of course, my light flesh doesn't want to come out now. There we go. There we go. And we're going to add a little bit of sunny skin tone to that. And again, remember what I said, this is all about layering. We're not adding a lot of sunny skin tone. We're going to get a brush that we like to use for this bigger stuff. And we're going to use this number 2 right here, which is just an inexpensive brush that you can buy anywhere. So we're going to mix this up, get it mixed really well. There we go. And this is going to be our top skin color. But we are going to put it on very, very thinly. That's what we want to do, is we want to make sure that it's really, really thin. So we'll take some, put it over here on our skin palette. I know you guys can't see that right now, but trust me, it's there. And we'll grab some of our water. And we'll just put a little bit of water in there. And we'll put some of our mixture in there as well. And let's see how thin we can get this. All right. That's about what I want. Maybe a little thinner. Just one of the things I like to do is I like to test my color on the back of my hand. And that looks pretty good. So now we're going to go and start doing some of those highlighted areas, like along here. You see how thin that is? And we're going to grab a clean makeup sponge. And we're just going to start dabbing that now, because we don't want to hide all of that color that we did. We just want to blend it in. So that's not looking horrible. And we're just going to work little areas. We can still see our skin tone underneath. We can still see our color that we've been going for here. And then we're going to come back and do more shadowing. That's just the way things go. Do a little bit more shadowing. We're using the sponge to move this around, so be aware of that. We're not putting too much color in one spot. And all we're doing is we're just softening what we did here. And I'm not putting a lot of paint on here, as you guys can see, and I'm just blending it in. Again, we're using that dabbing motion. And we're just bringing up the color of that skin. And we can still see all of that nice color that we had before. Now this ear, see, I'm kind of working my way around that ear and down along this part of the cheek and that muscle. And all I'm trying to do here now is just kind of hit those highlights. And as I do, this now starts to come to life a little bit more. And of course, as we get into doing more of this color, we're going to get into, see if I can blend that a little bit more right up in there. Well, it looks like it's a little harsh in there. And this is what we're doing here, really, is giving our Man of Steel a little bit of color that we would normally see in our own skin. And yes, he looks mean, and yes, he looks a little bit on the rougher side. We'll start where we put that color. We'll just kind of work our way down. And it's okay if this goes on a little spotty, because if we look at our own skin, we can tell that our own skin has a lot of color to it. And we'll just put a little bit here, a little bit here, and a little bit there. We'll just blend those in. And although we're not airbrushing, and we will do a little bit of airbrushing on him, I think, as we go around. Just soften up those lips a little bit. It's always nice to have softer lips on the Man of Steel. I'm going to move him off the stand. I'm going to move this back to where it should be so you guys can see that. We'll move our light. Get our light down where we need it. There we go. We'll move our paints out of the way. So now all we're doing is we're highlighting some areas. We're just highlighting. And again, just blending that in as we go along. My wife said to me that she really liked the way that this was coming out. And I got to say, I'm pretty happy with the way it's coming out too. And this all takes time. So don't be afraid to take your time on this. And again, if you screw up, just go back and do it again. Nothing stopped by repainting. Get down in here. Now this guy's a little bit older, a little bit more grizzled. We're just gonna pull our paint around. Grab a little bit more of that color that we've been using. Just highlight in here a little bit. And again, we'll just come back with that sponge. And just be random with it. Just be very, very random. So I got to get in behind that ear a little bit because it's a little bit dark. So I'm just going to drop some paint in there and then just kind of work it down. Get around the back of the neck here. And now I'm just using some of the paint that's already on. On the sponge. And we want to get around this ear. It's looking a little too purple. So we get around that ear. Get in some of those areas there. And again, like I said, you know, this is just stuff you're going to build up over time. And the more time that you take at this step, the better your results are going to be. Again, I want to get some color in behind that ear, just to lighten it up just a little bit. And now I'm just going to take the sponge and I'm just going to kind of dab it around some of the areas. That we've been working on. And there we have it. There's the Man of Steel with some additional color on him. Doesn't take long once you get going. And we are going to add some gray to him as well. We're going to add some beard to him. We're going to work on the eyes a little bit more. I might just want to get a little bit of color up in underneath those eyes, just a little bit. Soften up some of that color that's going on there. Now, your 3D prints can look amazing if you take the time to make them look amazing. And again, 3D prints can be a unique collectible for you. They can be a unique collectible for your friends. And it's something that, you know, over time is going to be something that you'll build up. Again, we're going to work around these eyes a little bit more in the next episode. We're going to get into around the eyes. We may work on the pupils a little bit more on the lips, adding some natural shading in there, and then probably work on a 5 o'clock shadow, and then start building up on the hair. So that is that. Currently, I know I got this light in my face right now. There we go. Move it up a little bit. So here we are. We've got the Man of Steel now. He is looking much, much better. I'm really happy with the way he's coming out. I hope you guys are following along and you're learning something as we go. So now we're going to go ahead and put him back on the stand. We're going to give him another little coat of the clear matte varnish, which we use here. And we'll clean out our palette from all of our inks, which we have a little bit left over, but not too many. So all I simply do is I just grab a paper towel and go in and just absorb. Oh, got a little bit on me. Oops. Try not to squeeze it like a zit. There we go. There we go. There we go. So that's all out of there. Oh, the white. Forgot the white in the center. There we go. The white's out now. I got a little bit on me, but that's okay. So now we are ready to move on to our next step. And once we put a shellac on this, we're going to go back in. We're going to work on the eyebrows in the next episode. We're going to work around the eyes. We're going to work on those lips a little bit, and we'll start blocking in our hair color properly. And we should be very close to being done the head portion of this, and then we'll start in on I'm going to show you how we're going to go about painting the rest of the body, and then the last parts will of course be all about the base. So until next time, my friends, thank you for joining. We'll see you in part 7 where we continue on. So until next time, remember that the first layer is always your foundation to a great print, and thank you to all my Patreons for keeping this project going.